It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy and Alex are here. We'll be joined by Rich Siegel of Barebones Software. Apple's going to announce its earnings, but it's going to be after the show. So we'll talk a little bit. We'll help you get down off that ledge, my friend. We'll talk a little bit about why Apple's earnings report, which many will say is negative, isn't so bad after all. Or is it? The conversation's next on MacBreak Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust. This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 347, recorded April 23rd, 2013. A suitcase full of bandwidth. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell your used gadgets. Find out what your used iPhone, iPad, or other Apple product's worth at gazelle.com. And by LegalZoom.com. LegalZoom's not a law firm. LegalZoom provides self-help services at your direction, such as affordable business and personal documents you can trust. Visit LegalZoom.com and use the offer code MBW to receive $10 off at checkout. And by Shutterstock.com. With over 20 million high-quality stock photos, illustrations, vectors, and video clips, Shutterstock helps you take your creative projects to the next level. For 30% off your new account, go to Shutterstock.com and use the offer code MacBreak4. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show that covers, well, not this week anyway, Apple's quarterly results. I'm joined by a great panel. Andy Iannacco is here from the Chicago Sun-Times. Great to see you.
This is actually a great opportunity because we're recording this just like 2 hours before the call, and so we can actually be the last people to talk about that great successful success story, Apple Computer, and their profits always higher, higher, higher. There's no ceiling, baby. Like Wonka's great glass elevator just keeps going up until you get the whole chocolate factory, baby, and that is Tim Cook's in action.
Also with us, from Cancun, I am so jealous, Alex Lindsay. Good to see you, Alex.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Pixelcore.com.
Trying to get some raise.
You've got a great picture, great bandwidth. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yes. I bring the bandwidth with me, actually, in a suitcase.
In a suitcase.
Most of the time. Sometimes it gets lost on the flight, which is why I'm not on MacBreak every week. But we found it this time.
That's going to be the title of your memoirs, right? Suitcase full of bandwidth.
Yeah.
Have bandwidth, will travel. Yeah. Also with us, we're very glad to have Rich Siegel here from Barebones Software, one of the preeminent.
Cheers, everybody.
He's there with his. Is that an Eclipse coffee milk that you've got there?
No. This is just your garden variety Dunkin' Donuts large cup.
Well, that counts also. He's calling us from Rhode Island, home of Eclipse Coffee and Dunkin' Donuts. You got both. He's also the man behind the most amazing Mac software ever, one of the original Mac. When did BB Edit start? It feels like it's been around as long as the Mac.
It feels like it some days, but actually it was released in 1993 was the first version.
Oh, okay. Well, that's still pretty. Guess what?
Only 20 years old.
20 years ago. Are you going to have a 20th anniversary party?
Well, we actually had a little bit of a thing last April. This June, sorry, actually, no, it was, let me think. Yeah, that's coming up, isn't it? May 93.
Yeah.
I'll think of something.
You got to have, well, I'll send you flowers. How about that?
Yeah, flowers would be, I like
We're here to talk today, as Andy alluded to, as I alluded to the fact that Apple will make what most analysts think is its quarterly analyst call, this results call this afternoon, the first loss in a long time. Is that right? Is that what they're saying? Is it loss?
Not a loss, but
negative growth.
Right. The first time in about 10 years that that this quarter's profits are not greater than previous quarter's profits.
Year over year.
Right, year over quarter for quarter, year after year. I think they're expecting something like 11 billion, and they're going to be only making about 8.3 billion dollars in the quarter that ended in March. So
not a surprise to anybody who's been watching the stock market. Apple's shares way down, and the price to earnings ratio way down, which led Henry Blodgett at Business Insider to say Apple's a great bargain at $9 P/E. Now, I don't think, first of all, we should say there really is a big difference between how Apple's doing as a company and how Apple's doing in the stock market, right? I'm not a stock.
Yeah. I mean,
exactly.
A lot of times, I mean, I guess I really feel like stock analysts aren't very good at actually measuring what's actually going on. They're good at looking at numbers most of the time. There are a handful of really good ones that are paying attention to what's actually going on. But I'm not saying that Apple's doing well. I'm just saying that the stock market is not a good analysis of whether the fact that it was so high. It was one side of irrational exuberance,
right?
And the fact that it's now whatever it is still pretty not too shabby.
Yeah, it dipped below 400, which was a lot. Which is the law of round numbers says that you have a party when a number goes above a certain number with lots of zeros, then start passing out the shotguns when it goes below a couple of zero numbers. But the fact of the matter is they're still making money hand over fist. Like I said, a profit of $8-point-something billion in a quarter is exceptionally good compared to how unprofitable HTC is, how limited the profits of Samsung and the other.
It's really it's a two-horse race. It's Apple and Samsung.
Yeah, in handsets, absolutely, and in desktops. I mean, Apple. The bottom line is that Apple is still very much the master of its own fate. However, the only problem about the stock market that affects Apple and affects Apple consumers is that this is the only part of human existence in which faith has an actual index to it. And so that amounts to the level of faith that a certain community of very influential people have that Apple is doing things that are okay, that are good. So it doesn't necessarily mean that Apple starts making blenders and kimchi electric rice cookers like Samsung next quarter. But I think it does mean that they're going to start to pivot their messaging a little bit to make sure that the good old days when they were you get back to a Wonka reference, the factory that you don't know what happens inside there, you don't know what goes on inside there. They release a new product, and that's the day that you find out that new product exists, and that's it. I think that level of secrecy is no longer going to work for Apple, that they need to at least be a little bit more open as to here's where our strategy is, that when the Maps app or when iCloud or when some other piece of software gets a lot of bad press, people who are, again, putting hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars into the company can point to, well, they also talked about this strategy that they're rolling out in 2014, so I'm not as inclined to be very pessimistic as I would have had I thought that this is the only thing that they're really working on. So I think that we're going to see some changes in behavior, but not a change in product line.
Rich, you want to weigh in?
I don't have much to add to what Andy said. I thought his exposition was pretty complete.
I was really hoping to milk this a little longer, actually. Could you?
A P to E of 9 is by no means bad, and I think some of us remember the insane P to E's of the .com era, where companies might be trading at 40 or 50 or 100 times their earnings. If Apple's profits do in fact level down a bit, there are going to be cries of how doomed they are. And I'm thinking, I'd really love to have their problems right now.
But I got to say, it's a 40% drop off their peak. It's the stock market admittedly is looking at things that maybe others are not looking at, but what they're looking at is Apple's future. I mean, you're even seeing drumbeats now from people saying Tim Cook's got to go, or maybe even that the board is already thinking about this. Now, admittedly, some of that's sensationalistic, but if you thought it was bad now, wait till their results come out in about 3 hours, and if their profits are down year over year, people are going to make a big deal about it.
Well, and I think that it's a huge opportunity if it turns out that Apple. If Apple's working on, so of course the rumors are, do we see a TV? Do we see?
But when do you stop being a pie-eyed optimist and start to say, hey, you know what?
No.
They've lost their mojo.
Don't know. If they don't turn something like that over, I mean, so it's not going to work for them. They're not going to continue to make more and more profits year over year, releasing the same products that are now becoming more and more commoditized. That's not going to happen. So they have to, what Apple, their business model has been up to date is to disrupt, on a very large scale, in certain industries. TV and these, wearable devices are probably two areas that have a lot of opportunity. And if Apple actually goes into that, it just may be taking some time for that to actually gestate. If it's not, then they've got some problems. But if it does turn out, I mean, I think a lot of people are interested in the wearable devices. I think that there's a really interesting possibility when we look at video, when we talk about the Apple TV, if Apple decides to go to 4K with their TV. And the reason that that's interesting is because the internet actually has the opportunity to pass TV and film, because TV and film have spent billions of dollars on HD. They're not going to spend billions for another 10 years on 4K. So you're not going to see 4K in most theaters and probably almost no TV. But YouTube and Amazon and Apple can move to 4K anytime they want, as long as the monitors are there. And we're seeing monitors now dropping to $5,000, which is starting to get to that point where it starts to open up. And so the question is, I think Apple, there is a good chance that Apple could release a TV that went down that path. And I think there's a good chance that they'll do wearable devices. And I think that changes a lot. And I think that is also very hard to get right, because it's the first time that it's been there. And they've had the advantage of not having to release new things, something new and revolutionary, because they've constantly just been, opening these cans that were almost endless of revenue with the phone and the iPad and the iPod before that. I think that they're kind of in a challenging position right now, finishing that. And I think that, this will be a very interesting year. I think we're going to see a trajectory this year of either going up or down. And I think it's unclear which way it's going to go, but I think that those are the unknowns, I think, that sit out in front of us. If they don't come up with something new and revolutionary, I do think we're going to see all of these. I don't think Apple's going to stop anytime soon, but I think that their growth will level off.
Tech columnist Peter Cohan in Forbes responded to Henry Blodgett's bullish article about Apple to say 7 reasons Apple is more doomed than you think. It's worse than you think. He says, first of all, the stock is overpriced. He says that P to E of 9, which is lower than the market average, is not what you should be looking at. You should be looking at its earnings growth. That's more important. He says, and Apple has nothing new in the pipeline. He says, to your point, Alex Lindsay, that, the iPhone 5, the iPad mini are kind of ho-hum. And he doesn't believe that the TV or the watch is going to do anything. He says, without Jobs, Apple's management has lost the ability to innovate. But the most important thing, point he makes, I think, is that this cheaper iPhone signals that Apple is moving to a different business model. Their original business model was they were different. Think different. They were better. They were quality. Yes, they were more expensive, but they were better than them. They weren't a mass market product. He says the other way to go, the other business model is low-cost producer, making an adequate product, charging customers the lowest price, profiting by beating the competitor's price. He says Apple is moving away from differentiation to becoming a low-cost provider with his low-cost iPhone, and they have to, because the market is saturated for smartphones in the rich world. You've got to make inexpensive phones for the rest of the world.
Well, but I think that also, if you look at it, Apple did the exact same thing with the iPod. I mean, they had a very expensive iPod that came out first, and then they made sure that there was no oxygen left. I mean, they really got that down to anything from $50 to $500. There was an iPod.
Can they do the same thing with smartphones?
I think so. I mean, especially with the way the vendor, people, they're already doing free phones. I mean, essentially, and so,
right.
So I definitely, with agreements. And so I think that Apple can definitely build that market where, I think they're giving up a lot of space, and I think that they'd like to stop giving up space to Android, because it is important. They have to react to that. They can't just ignore the fact that Android has become this huge operating system. I think that, I don't know if I'm still unsure of Android's future, because I do think it's going to splinter. I think that there's a point where Samsung decides it doesn't really need to play much, with everybody else. I mean, they're already moving that direction.
By the way, people are saying it's over for Samsung too. So that's the media loves to say it's over.
It's over. It's over. It's over. So what I
we
think
crown the kings and then we knock the throne out from under them.
Well, it wouldn't be good news otherwise.
Right.
if we all said it was just sunny all day. So so we got to worry about something. So, but I think that. I do think that Apple does need to continue to do something disruptive. I mean, I don't think that they have the type of business model that can just kind of, just kind of even keel
I agree,
along.
but that's the question: is what can they do? I mean, is a watch or a TV disruptive? I don't think so.
Oh, I do.
If I may.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rich.
Rich.
Sort of a couple of thoughts based on what's been going by here. The first is I see words like troubled computer maker, and
which they're far from, obviously.
And let's see, what's the other one?
Struggling.
Slumping personal computer maker. And you know what word I see after those? That word is Dell.
Right. Dell, by the way, is worth more on the stock market than Apple is right now, which tells you something.
Well, but see, my take on this is that the only thing that will truly doom Apple is if they get themselves into the commodity hardware business. And
but they're not a personal computer company anymore, are they?
Well, it doesn't matter what kind of company they are, right? They're not they are a personal computer company, but they're not only a personal computer company. They're a phone handset company, but they're not only a phone handset company. Right. They're a music player company, but they're not only a music player company. They cut across a lot of lifestyle functional areas. And they, people talk about how much trouble they're in or how they can't innovate. They're making and selling high margin, high profit stuff as fast as they can manufacture it. And will that come to an end at some point? It might, right? Everything does, right? But who knows what's going to happen next? There's talk about watches and there's talk about TVs. And I think a little bit of that is projection, what people would like for them to do or what experts think they ought to do or what they could do. Fact is, really is like the chocolate factory. You don't know what goes on inside.
Mm.
And I think kind of like the sausage factory. You maybe don't necessarily want to know what goes on inside. My view on it from the software side of things is there's sort of a similar thing, right? We look at what's being offered to us as developers, and there's a lot of talk about what we would like Apple to do or what Apple should do, but the fact is that Apple is going to do what they believe is best in their own long-term strategic interests. And with the way they've been performing as a business, the way they've been performing as a company, stock price or not, P/E or not, it's really very difficult to argue that they've been making any bad moves lately, really for a number of years.
I don't think if you're bearish on Apple, and I'm not taking one position or another. You would be bearish on Apple not because they've made any mistakes, but because they've in a way painted themselves into a corner. That the market is changing, and in some ways, the success that they've had with the iPhone and the iPad is making it hard for them to change with the market. They can't iterate as fast as the little guys. It's the same thing that happened to Microsoft. And no, I don't think anybody's arguing that Apple is not doing well now. Well, some are, but that's clearly not. That's not the case. They've got a ton of cash. They are still dominant. They're activating more handsets, at least in Verizon and probably on all the U.S. carriers than anybody else. Well, go ahead.
And
it's the future we're talking about, right?
Yeah, but Apple seems to be undergoing a really good transition. So, I mean, in terms of for a company that really wants to, again, maintain their ability to dictate their own destiny. Apple is under no pressure to tack against the winds of consumer preference. They're not. They don't need to kowtow to investors. They are really one of the few companies that can do exactly what they want to do. And also, they're also in a great position because they have enough profitability and enough cash on hand that they could fail for a couple of years. For if a disaster is not imminent, they can make a lot of really bad, terrible decisions before it becomes okay. We have lost our ability to do exactly what we want to do. So that's a very good position. But where they're trying to go, I think, is that they are trying to expand their portfolio into not just hardware that gets 30 to 40% margins, but also services, so that services are like annuities, where they don't have to keep coming out with a brand new phone every single year, every quarter. If they make the video business so profitable that people are always coming to their video store and always leaving behind a certain percentage of their money for every purchase into Apple's coffers, if every time they want to buy a book, every time they want to buy a piece of software, they're leaving behind 30 cents on the table out of every single dollar, that is like an annuity. that every single day makes profitability without them having to continue to make new engineering breakthroughs, create new, quote, disruptive, unquote, technologies and stuff like that, which is why I think that a lot of the stuff that they're going to be doing in the future is going to be things like the rumored deal about doing a streaming radio service that has deals with all of the music companies, and things like the long rumored deals that they're trying to broker with cable companies and networks to be one of the first companies that can, without any legal objection from the networks, stream content directly to consumers through cable connections. Those are, again, annuity sort of things. And I think that when they start coming out with things like, if they come up with a watch, if they come up with a TV set, yes, those will be there'll be a huge influx of cash. But as Alex sort of said, all of these new devices come in waves where they can't sell them as fast as they can make them, and they're making again 35 to 40% on each one of these pieces of hardware. But as new companies get into the game, consumers start to fail to see why they should be going with an Apple product instead of a Samsung or instead of another nameplate where they have more choice and lower prices. But and so that's why they really need to make sure that the get of that watch isn't this one specific watch. It's all the services that you get with that watch. If they do like a micropayment, if they do an electronic payment service that's tied to iOS, that is so easy to do if you're using an Apple Watch or an Apple iPhone. And now they're starting to get like credit card style transaction fees off of those things. Those are other variants of what you'd call annuities. I think that Apple is starting to see the wisdom of trying to get off the technology disruptor treadmill, where every 4 years they have to come up with something that knocks the entire industry on its butt. Nobody can guess that way for more than 10 or 15 years. If they go into 2015, 2016, 2017 with the ability to still come up with that device that causes the entire industry to have to restructure itself to accommodate it, that will be something akin to a miracle.
Yeah. So when this afternoon they report, if they do report, falling profits, lowered margins, and the world goes crazy, because they will. It's all over for Apple. That's a great story for the media. Your advice, all of you, would be just stay cool.
Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. There will
Whisper
be
those words of wisdom.
My advice should be, if you have the spare cash, buy Apple when the stock price drops, because it's a great opportunity.
But that's a good question. What is the natural price for Apple stock? Because it was really cool seeing them break 700, but I think that you'd have to be the most turbo fanboy to think that that's exactly where Apple stock price should be, and that can only go up from there. Like I don't think the price is crashing. I think it's sort of finding a more reasonable level.
I think we're going to say right here that we are not giving you stock advice.
No,
and you'd be nuts. You'd be nuts to follow our stock advice, even if we were. And then if you want to buy Apple stock, and you can blame Rich. But that's why the stock market is a different game. You're playing a different beast. It's about expectations.
The world's biggest and longest faith-based initiative.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I think it's not that much. I think a lot of times it's not that much. I mean, some people are very good gamblers, and so you can be very good at that kind of thing. But there's a lot of variables.
Right.
I think it's.
So we're not making any recommendations.
And we don't own. I don't own any stock.
Buy Apple stock until it goes back down below 20.
See, if you'd bought it then, you'd still be happy, right?
I remember a coworker saying, "It's at 13, or should I buy?"
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, and I said yes, and I really wish I had to.
13.
At the time I had no money. Yes.
13.
I was eating rice in a basement.
Jiminy.
I said, "Buy Apple stock."
Yeah,
buy Apple stock.
Sure,
Yep.
whatever.
I was calling friends.
All right. I mean, there's the controversy in a nutshell. Apple is doomed. Apple's not doomed. Doomed seems like such a strong word. I wouldn't say doomed, but I have to say, I wonder if Apple's lost its mojo. And by the way, for those who are calling for Tim Cook's ouster, and I don't think it's very many,
that's ridiculous.
who do you replace him with? There's no Steve Jobs waiting in the wings, or maybe Johnny Ive. I don't know who you replace him with. The job of a CEO is very different than that of a designer.
I mean, I think the only thing, if it's something that Steve brought that I think may not be there now, is someone running around yelling at people and telling them to get it done.
Yeah, Tim doesn't seem like a yeller, although I'm told
he might be. I just can't imagine him,
I'm told it could be pretty forceful.
I feel instinctively, I feel as though he's not a yeller. He's more of he puts a black gloved hand on a chromed like lever next to his chair, and everybody starts to wonder, are there trapdoors under our chairs? And that's how he gets things done. But I think Rich really was spot on there. I mean, can you point to something specific, that an opportunity that Tim Cook had but missed, a mistake that he made, a place where he should have zigged or zagged? You really can't find that. It's ridiculous. The idea of replacing him at this juncture is absolutely ridiculous. And
who knows how this is the problem that we live in now with Twitter and the internet. Somebody could say something and suddenly it gains a life of its own. Although I think we have talked about this. Like, well, what would you do next? I am not in your camp at all, Alex Lindsay, being bullish that Apple making a new TV or a new watch is going to have a market there. I understand. I understand attempting it, and I'm wearing a Pebble watch. And
you really think your Pebble watch would be better than something that Apple would do as a watch?
No, maybe Apple will do something magically wonderful, but I don't see what it would be. I don't think the world's dying to buy new wristwatches or new TVs.
Well, I mean, I think we're getting used to having things. I mean, and the TV, is one thing. I have to admit, I'm looking for a new TV right now, and I'm just kind of now in that holding pattern.
Well, I also admit I have a TV that deserves to be replaced that I have not replaced, just in case.
See? Yeah,
but the whole process up.
I mean, I have a great watch, that I love. That took me a long time to find, and I would replace it in a heartbeat.
I'm looking at actually a lot of our audience. We have about 8 people in the studio audience, and a lot of them are wearing watches, which surprises me. Because I thought watches were dead. Your phone tells the time, right, Alex?
My phone does tell the time, but it does. I don't carry it around. I don't have it in front of me all the time, and I can't look up at it, and it's doesn't anyway. So
by the way, it is kind of cool to have a watch. I mean, this is what people learned with a Nano watch. To have a programmable watch face is kind of cool. And I do kind of like it when text messages come in. My watch tells me. It's with the phone call. It tells me who's calling. I go like, oh, I don't want to take that.
And imagine it'd be like, Siri, what's the weather? And then you're like, Siri, to remind me of this. Siri,
well, that would be interesting. You think they may put Siri in the watch? I guess they could.
Oh yeah, I definitely think you have Siri. I think you have to have Siri in the watch. I don't think that works any other way. And so then,
Siri, what time is it?
I don't know about Siri. Remember, the Siri requires a connection to a network. If it were acting,
well, it would go to your phone.
Conduit, if we're acting simply as a conduit to the phone, if it had a built-in microphone, so that
yeah, I'm sure
maybe.
This Pebble watch doesn't work without an iPhone or an Android phone. You got to have a phone.
Maybe
you can't put.
It does.
You're saying this should be a phone and a watch and everything?
Yes.
Hello?
No, I don't know. I don't know if it needs to be. I don't know if it needs to be. And the question, it wouldn't be this. Most likely, it would be more like Bluetooth.
For those listening at home, we're taking our watch. We're pretending we're Dick Tracy and putting it in our mouth, then our ear, then our mouth, and then our ear. Yeah. It's not a good...
See, Alex, I mean, I can't remember the last time I saw someone in public wearing a Bluetooth headset. It's like
why? Because they suck. Really?
You're not being facetious? You don't see those anymore?
Once a year,
I see them really rarely.
Once a year, I buy a Bluetooth headset to try it again. Like, have they actually got this working? And the answer is never.
It is kind of like Michael Douglas in Wall Street, isn't it? To have
and I think
I don't care about how it looks. I just don't like all the clicking and the weird phasing and all the audio problems. Right. I mean, that's the issue with the Bluetooth. It stinks. Anyway.
So this watch is going to be Bluetooth, though, right? Or you think it'll have some magical non-Bluetooth?
No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it'd be great to have
the Pebble is Bluetooth.
Apple created a new protocol that actually worked. And the worst part is that
that's what we need. Apple to create a new protocol.
Well, somebody created a new one. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. Is actually they don't have to create a new protocol. All they need to do is they need to use the other Bluetooth protocol that audio uses. So the thing is that we have phones have this crappy Bluetooth implementation, and professional audio actually has another implementation of Bluetooth that actually works. For a lot longer distances and higher quality and everything else, but it's not, compatible with all the current little headsets because they picked the cheap, crappy one.
Alex Lindsay from Pixelcore is here from beautiful Cancun, from Providence, Rhode Island. Rich Siegel of Barebones Software and from a mysterious place in Massachusetts. We never really know exactly where Andy is.
Well, go to like Google Earth, look for like a like island off of like Nantucket that's roughly the size of my face, only like glowering, with a helipad like right about
Sounds like
here.
something in Dubai.
This is all about the hints of who I am in this episode.
From Anatco Island.
There we go.
Just off Shutter Island in beautiful Massachusetts.
The technical registered name is Fort Awesome.
But the locals call it Skull Island. I don't know why. Andy Nacco from the Chicago Sun-Times. There it is, right there. Zoom in. Center, zoom, enhance. It looks like he's found that skull of Andy in the middle of the ocean. Wow.
Yeah, I was beaten regularly as a child. That's why you see those fissures.
Anatco Island is a very good name, I just want to say. If you are thinking maybe there is a new phone in your future, or a new iPad, or a new tablet or computer, maybe you ought to know about gazelle.com. Gazelle is the place to sell your iPhone, your iPad, your Macintosh. Get started now. See what your device is worth. Get that quote for 30 days. You don't have to act on it, but you're locked in for 30 days. And I can tell you one thing I know. No matter what your device, it's not gaining in value. These things are all, every day, they're worth less. So find out now and get that quote locked in. Maybe you've got, perhaps you've mistakenly purchased a Samsung phone. Let's say you bought one of those Samsung Galaxy Notes because Leo kept saying you should buy a, well, that's a Nexus S. Wow, they buy those too, huh? Let's click the Galaxy Note. Whoa. There we go. And it's in good shape, yeah. It's not, not perfect. And free of water damage, yes. You just run through this, and you can find out what your device is worth. This is an offer from Gazelle to pay you that money. $220. That sets you up with the next phone. The beauty part is you send it to them. They pay the postage. In fact, they'll send you a postage-paid box for all your gadgets. Anything worth more than $1, they'll pay for it. And then their data experts clean it off. They take all your data off of it. You don't have to worry about that. If it's in the condition you said it is, they'll send you a check. If it's in better condition, they'll up the offer. Yes, they will. I've heard from people all the time that will up the offer. There's an old iPhone, 16 gigabyte iPhone 4, $150. That is a pretty good deal. Go to Gazelle. They will send you a check, a PayPal, or an Amazon gift card. And I think that's the best deal. A little pro tip here. If you take the Amazon gift card, they add 5% to the value. Gazelle, GAZELLE.com. Find out how much your iPhone, iPad, or other Apple products are worth. Find out why over 500,000 customers have been paid out more than $100 million for their old gadgets that were just gathering dust. Gazelle.com. We use them. One of these HTC ones is going to Gazelle. Whichever has the worst battery life. That's a long story. I won't embark on that. Although, I know, Andy, we've talked before about Android, eclipsing iPhone in some ways, and I have to say the One is very much like an iPhone. It's unibody aluminum. It's
never an awful thing to have a phone that looks and feels great in the hand.
Yeah. And this one, and I hope Apple takes notice, and I'm sure they do, even though they probably wouldn't admit it, has speakers left and right in the front.
Yeah.
So the sound is really, is like sound. There it is. There's the close-up of that. Anyway, Apple is sending you checks for $15. Did you? I feel so sorry for Apple. So AntennaGate, right? If you had an iPhone 4 and you complained, you actually had to go file a claim in which you would state in the claim that you had experienced the sudden loss of a call or the drop of a signal, that you were unwilling for some reason to get a bumper. You actually have to say that. That you just had tried other things, whatever. Then you had to file a claim. This was in response to a class action lawsuit. And Apple is now sending out checks for the vast amount of $15 to make you whole.
Burrito and a beer.
I don't know. I'd feel better. The first checks were issued April 17th. They're void after July 16th, so don't wait for that burrito and beer. Go get it. You can't submit a claim anymore, by the way. $53 million in the settlement. Total amount Apple paid out. Lawyers took $16 million of the $53 million. Brad Kelly tweeted, "My iPhone settlement check is here. Buying a boat and sailing the world. Thanks, lawyers." With a picture of a $15 check. He only got 4 retweets on that. Oh, no, 27 retweets, 4 favorites. Okay. I'll retweet it. So, wait for you. Any of you file? That's so silly. I feel sorry for Apple. This is stupid.
Yeah.
This is stupid.
Yep. Nope.
Only the lawyers won that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they won a lot.
Well, what happened? So there's a pool of money. So subtract whatever the lawyers got, $16 million from $53 million. That leaves, what, $37 million?
Just remember, you're getting a $15 check and they're getting a $16 million check.
Well, let me just do a little
What is wrong with that
math.
picture?
Because $37 million divided by 15.
Easy, Leo. Easy.
That's a lot of 37 0 0 0 0 0 0 divided by 15 means that 2.4 million people are going to get those checks, if my math is correct, if my Apple calculator is correct. 2.46666666666 million people are going to get checks. What? No, they're not. I bet if it's 1,000, I'll be shocked. For $15, who's going to fill out that whole thing?
Yeah. But it's an interesting symbolic gesture that they were sort of forced to say we were wrong about the design of this thing.
Symbol, yeah.
And the only way that a company can say yes, we were wrong is by at some point writing a check for whatever amount, and then but you're right in terms of adequate. What would be adequate redress? I mean, how is somebody really able to write a letter with an affidavit saying that I've been an independent farmer in Indiana, that the hens stopped laying, my best producer.
Yeah, what was your real
just
damages?
clammed up.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, it was I have said before that it was an embarrassing incident, not necessarily because of the fault, but because of Apple's reaction to the fault, which was like, "Oh, stop whining, you babies! It's a beautiful phone." And I can't believe that you're making such a big deal out of the fact that the signal strength indicator goes from 5 to 1 if you hold it normally. Okay, if you're going to be a baby about it, fine. Here's a rubber band. Go shut up. But
that was, by the way, pretty much the response.
It was. I mean, it was really embarrassing. I'm not being sarcastic. That I was a little bit embarrassed for Apple when that's the way they chose to do it. But that said, it's not as though they were selling defective phones that failed to work. It was just an embarrassing defect that they would have, if they had the option of simply saying, okay, we're going to stop selling these. Of course, they didn't have that option. They would have just simply quietly, not really admitted anything was wrong, but quietly there would have been a revision B very quickly that didn't have that problem associated with it.
Right.
But the idea that there's a lot of fault on both sides, both Apple and their inability to really acknowledge there was a problem, but also in the appellation of the suffix "gate" to this. This was really not quite so much a scandal or a disgrace as the most powerful person in the entire planet using the power of his office to execute political and personal vendettas that upset the balance of democracy for the entire western half of the planet.
Wait, was H.R. Haldeman working for Apple at the time?
Yeah. Yeah, Alan Kay was Deep Throat.
I'm sorry. Didn't mean to derail your...
No.
Completely astute. It isn't a gate. It's just.
I mean,
it's just a little problem.
It's an embarrassing footnote, but not a gate. That said, I mean, again, I'm a print journalist in a swiftly collapsing market. A free beer and a free burrito are things that I would like. So, oh well. Window closed. Once again, Andy Anako gets the
You
fuzzy
blew it. You could have had. You took the bumper. See, as soon as you took the bumper, what you didn't realize is you were foregoing the $15.
I was able to burn the bumper for heat during that tight winter we had last year. So it's not like I'm a total loser.
Now, this is a pure rumor, I think, and I think not a true one. Apple returned 8 million iPhones for defects to Foxconn. This coming from the Register, based on a translation of a translation from a translation of China Business. An anonymous Foxconn staffer chatting to China Business said that Apple sent back at least I don't know how this gets to be 8 million. At least 5 million phones, and maybe as many as 8 million, due to appearance of substandard or dysfunctional problems. Do you think that's even halfway credible? That would be a significant amount of money.
I had heard a rumor that I guess when they released the new these new trackpads that are in all of our Mac Pros, the rumor I heard was that the failure rate on those trackpads, because of the way that they were built to the spec that Apple needed, was like 40%. So I mean, the thing is that Apple has the tolerances that Apple requires. A lot of their stuff to work inside of is intense. And I think that I could definitely see a lot of failures.
So in the Christmas quarter, Apple sold almost 50 million iPhones. Let's assume it sold another 50 million. It won't have, but let's say. So we're talking 8% failure rate, somewhere around there. That's a high failure rate, but not unbelievable.
No, is this from? I'm sorry, I wasn't clear if it was from consumers getting back or Apple just kicking them back.
Apple kicking them back.
Yeah. No, I totally believe that.
Really?
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah.
In other words, those phones didn't necessarily end up in stores, but perhaps Apple's own internal QA said this isn't going to work.
Well, you open the container and you take out a few phones and you look at them and they look like they're made out of clay, and you go, no, I should send that container back. I don't know how you would look at 8 million phones. But I'm presuming this is not from consumers, that this is, because we haven't seen any information about it.
Then we'd have another class action, and there'd be another $20 million.
There hasn't been anywhere near that kind of failure or return rate for iPhones. I'm pretty sure of that. I don't know anybody's returned an iPhone for problems. All right. And by the way, the cost for that, doesn't go to Apple, goes to Foxconn. It'll be a significant loss, more than $1 billion loss to them. So we'll probably know at some point. I don't know. Do they have to report their P&L?
Not to us.
Hey, Foxconn, did you lose money this year? We're going to take a break again because I'm looking for something interesting to say, and I don't see it. Do you see anything in here? It's kind of a slow period right now. There's no new products. We're waiting for the quarterly results. The reason we make such a big deal about the stock prices, that's all there is to talk about. Chat room, is there a big story that we are missing? Twitter music?
Well, the industry was really quiet last week.
Yeah.
So
I'm really sick of the iPhone versus Android, who's winning debate. That's nothing to say there.
This is an iPhone and Android market, and that's just cheap, stupid, rah-rah, red flag versus blue flag fighting that no one should care about.
I'm a little bummed that that Twitter is killing TweetDeck, not just on iOS, but the desktop version and the Android version. It'll stop working May 7th. Twitter bought TweetDeck kind of in a preemptive strike to keep Bill Gross from creating a Twitter competitor. He was buying up, his Idea Lab was buying up Twitter clients, and they paid a lot of money for it. And I guess they didn't really want it, so TweetDeck is going away. A lot of people loved TweetDeck. Anybody here use that on the desktop with the columns? It was the first one to have the, timeline, mentions, direct messages, searches, different accounts, all in columns.
I had it I used it for a while, and then when I had it open too long, I was like, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
So then I said Twitter needs to be somewhere, not in the middle.
Yeah.
It needs to be somewhere to the side. That's where I stepped away.
But it does indicate that there's that segment of the Twitter user base that really does use it as a professional communications tool. Obviously not as a private thing, but they really do need to have those multiple columns because they want to find out what kind of traction the topics are getting. They need to maintain their own PR, their own marketing, and so that's not a large part of the Twitter base by far. But there needs to be those sort of tools because those are the people who MLB.com is pushing out information to a lot of people and that makes Twitter a lot more valuable. So if they don't give like power tools to people who make Twitter into a more valuable service than just snapshots of breakfast to your Aunt Sadie, then they're going to start to lose some traction with other people.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean that's a small version of it actually. I was talking to a social manager for a broadcast company, and that's all she does. And it is incredible the tools that these companies have to manage, the ones that are paying attention to manage their social exposure. They have ones that tweet, like look at all of their users and find out when their users are most active on Twitter, and then so that you can write a tweet and have it go into a queue waiting for that spike. You know, so
Right.
that they're actually opened and looking at it when they see it. It's a crazy thing.
Has anybody watched the Funny or Die 78-minute parody, I, Steve? No. I couldn't find any. You watched it. All 78 minutes, Chad?
Not all 78 minutes, but that's because it was 3 a.m. and,
Here,
and
let's
I had
watch.
to go to bed.
Let's just watch a little bit of this is the beginning. Justin Long as Steve Jobs rehearsing.
As the frugal gourmet.
Yeah.
He kind of does look like the frugal. The janitor comes in and says, Mr. Jobs,
What you doing?
go
Mr.
home. It's
Jobs?
late.
Yeah. No, he does.
And he said, I don't know why I'm not getting audio, but that's usually the case with my stupid laptop. But he said, and Justin Long says, I'm rehearsing for my keynote tomorrow.
So it's a story
And
within
the janitor
a story.
says, that's what you said 4 hours ago.
You have watched it.
Yeah.
No, that's all I watched right there.
And in the real like $180 million big budget version, that would be played by Morgan Freeman.
Right.
You know something, Steve? If we think back to who we were when we was 17, we figure out who we are today and who we ever will be.
That's the speech we want. Now, they obviously spent no money on sets. And
I mean, this reminds me of a college theater production.
It's a black box theater production of Ice
One-man
Steve.
show.
Yeah,
No
and
wonder they
then
got it
he
done
goes,
so quickly. We thought that there was
you
gonna
had
be
a
set."
question, and then there's like a ding of like the response from the user, and then he answers it's like, oh, yeah, it's just a single monologue. And
I'll tell you the real reason we're not playing the audio. We don't want this entire show to be pulled off the off the air by YouTube. For
there's definitely some funny
comedy
moments.
violations.
That they continuously just bash on Wozniak. I mean, just no one loves him.
Well, that's good. That's funny because
And-
everybody loves Woz, so that's funny.
Right. And so, and they'll be like, he's up to like say a speech, and they're like, "Boo! Get off the work! Bring on Steve! Come
We
on!"
want Steve. Here's the original, by the way. Is that Woz right there?
No, that is Bill Gates. And so apparently,
wait a minute. I want audio.
I know.
What's
I don't.
wrong with my
I
computer?
really wish we could.
We can't figure it out.
So many.
There's something wrong. Oh, here's Woz. I like this.
And so Woz is Hurley from Lost.
From Lost. Big hair.
And
there he is.
Just plays
It
the
kind of looks like Woz.
best Woz.
It kind of looks like Woz.
Right.
So they're suggesting I use a line in
You know,
plug. That's novel.
that clip suddenly makes me think that they should, whoever's the next person to do like a Steve Jobs movie, they need to hire Judah Freelander as Bill Gates.
That won't work. You know why that won't work? Because I got an HDMI cable in here.
Well,
If you just switch
HDMI cable or no, Leo, I think that's good casting.
I think
I wasn't talking to you.
When I cast,
But you're right.
When I cast, I often ask myself, is it going to be SDI or HDMI, or is it going to be RCA cables? I mean, if it's going to be analog, there's a whole set of
I
actors
like the way they aged Jobs because Justin Long, this is when he's young, right? So he's clean shaven, and they aged him just by gluing a gray beard and making his hair gray.
Yeah.
I don't even need to know the dialogue. This is
That's
good.
That's how you know the budget of a movie. If they don't pay the actor enough to get a haircut for this role, you know this is a low budget movie.
I want to see if we can get the picture of the Apple One in here because here's Gates. That's Bill Gates, huh? You did watch quite a bit of that.
Yeah. And it's funny. So right now they're at the computer club,
Right.
And
Looking at the original Apple.
right
There it is.
Oh, and so you can see Steve Wozniak holding out his hand. Bill Gates comes up and goes, "I want to shake the hand of the man who made this computer." And then Steve Jobs holds out his hand, and he shakes only Steve Jobs' hand, and then Wozniak is just standing there for the rest of the time with his hand out, waiting to get shaken. Yeah.
Oh.
And it's in every frame. It's just hilarious.
I like that. Poor Wozniak. So they paint Steve as a god in this.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
It's
yeah.
comedy.
Woz was just a guy.
Yeah.
Just along
Absolutely.
for the ride.
So this is when they're building the Apple One.
Why has no
Excuse
one
me, they
watched
just-
this?
I don't
No one
believe
I
they
know
had
has watched
some
this.
technology back then.
They're
Well,
gluing.
those are not
gluing the keys
style
on.
key switches, which were not created until 1984. I can't wait to see the IMDb,
It's better with that sound.
It is. It's like yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Better
And
with
so
that
they
sound.
describe people who have seen the Apple, and There's a whole bunch of people that are like,
There's a lot
this
of cameos
is weird.
from famous comedians.
Right.
In here. Yeah.
And then there's one person like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And she reaches down and grabs the apple that's sitting on the table instead of the actual computer. Yeah.
You know what? This might be, I hate to say it, it might actually be better than the Hollywood.
The problem is
Definitely
that,
better than the Ashton Kutcher version.
right. The problem is that from someone who's a complete layman, you don't know where fact and fiction.
But what this tells
collide.
you is how much these guys at Funny or Die, who are pretty savvy, expect people to know the mythology. They
Right.
expect you to know the legend, otherwise it's not funny.
Right.
And I think we do know that. I think everybody knows the legend now. And more will once that Aaron Sorkin movie comes out. All right, we're going to take a break. Come back with more. Andy Iannacco is going to gin up some news while I'm gone.
You can news up some gin.
News up some gin. That'll do the same work. Rich Siegel from Barebones Software. Alex Lindsay. What are you doing in Cancun? Oh, look at that.
There you go.
St. George whiskey. What are you doing in Cancun down there?
Seeing the sights, mostly hotels.
Not doing anything
Wait
serious.
a minute. I thought Alex was at an undisclosed location.
It's turning blue.
I know my webcam settings went crazy.
Wow, this really is a recurring Wonka theme. We just need to
Yes.
embrace it now.
Oompa loompa diggity-doo.
Shouldn't have stolen the gum, Alex.
What
Yes.
do you get when you watch too much TV? Our show today brought to you by LegalZoom.com. Despite what you might think, it is not a law firm. No, in fact, you don't need a law firm. It is a self-help service dedicated to helping you make the legal decisions and the legal documents you need in your business and your life, and it is fantastic, and I can recommend it unreservedly. For an LLC, LegalZoom, $99. That's what we did. We're still using, 8 years later, the LLC that I did up there in the attic, in the cottage, going through the questionnaire. Incorporation, trademarks, if you don't have a last will and testament, $69 to make one. You can establish a living trust at LegalZoom.com. In the past 12 years, over 2 million Americans like me have used LegalZoom for LLCs, wills, trusts, trademarks, and more. And it's an online process. It's very easy. You just go step by step. Chad, did you finish your trademark application? You didn't, did you?
I haven't yet. But they're very good at sending me emails and going, hey,
started
you
it.
haven't finished yet.
You haven't finished.
Yeah, I need to send them
Picture.
evidence. Yeah, evidence that I'm using my trademark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's easy to do. Just send them the OMG Craft.
Exactly. Or
your blog.
omgchad.com. Yeah.
So, but if you have a blog, you should trade. If you have a brand, if you're creating a brand of any kind, I didn't know that Twit was going to be worth anything, but I don't know why. I just had the inclination to trademark Twit and the logo and to make an LLC out of it, and I'm glad I did now.
Yeah, my biggest fear is that, ABC News will come out with their new
OMG
anchor,
Chad.
OMG Chad,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting here going, that was
NBC
me.
Nightly News with OMG Chad.
Absolutely. I mean,
I don't
it'll
think-
happen.
I think you're safe, unless it's you.
Sure? You sure?
Maybe
Yeah,
somebody,
unless it's me.
I could see a world 20 years from now.
And then I'll be happy that I trademarked my name.
And now, our anchor, Mr. Redhead himself, OMG Chad, reporting from the space station somewhere above Alpha Centauri.
Using his Apple smartwatch to talk to us.
Hello, I'm here. So LegalZoom, if you go there right now, you can check out what they can do. Here's something new that they added since I've used them. You can actually get help from an attorney at LegalZoom.com. They have the business legal plan. The legal plan attorneys are vetted. They're set for fixed price, so you know exactly what you're going to pay for your advice. And sometimes, you're going through one of these things, and you might have some questions. And it's nice to say, I'm going to talk to an attorney. It works in most states. They have profiles online and unedited reviews from customers, so you can know exactly what you're going to get. LegalZoom.com. If you use the offer code MacBreak Weekly, just to let them know that's where you heard about it, we will be very grateful, and we'll send you $10. Just take $10 off the top, just to kind of encourage you to say MacBreak Weekly. LegalZoom.com. Fantastic, affordable, personalized protection. In many cases, you don't need a lawyer. You need LegalZoom.com. All right, let's see. The search continues. Did you see the iBeetle? A car with deep iPhone integration. See, this is where you miss Steve Jobs. Because I would have loved to have seen the keynote introducing the iBeetle.
Would the Beetle have been good and cool enough for him to like put it into the keynote?
Oh yeah.
Or would they insisted, no, we're gonna need you to make something with 3 pinstripes, not 4, not 2. We're gonna need 1 dot that's orange, but the right kind of orange on the hood.
He approved the Motorola Rocker. I would say that this has had a good shot.
I don't know. I remember that announcement, and I remember it being the most. Well, and we signed a deal with a company that did something, and now I'm going to leave the stage and let the person responsible for that product
talk about this
now.
piece of crap.
He will tell you what his name is. I never bothered to learn it.
He didn't even mention the guy's name. Wow.
And then as he's talking, you hear like microwave popcorn being cooked backstage.
So the iBeetle, and Apple worked with Volkswagen on this, designed in coordination, according to VW, with Apple, boasts integration with the iPhone through, get ready for it, the iBeetle app. When the app is launched, it can either connect the iPhone to the Beetle, docked, or not, undocked. I'm reading that this is straight out of the press release. The driver or front passenger decides that. As soon as the iPhone connects to the data network of the Beetle via the app and the docking station, it all begins. Access to Spotify, oil and coolant temperature gauges, 2 things that have really never been merged together before, so that's exciting. Compares a comprehensive set of data for different routes to a particular destination. They don't mention if it uses Apple Maps for that. That could be a selling point.
Comprehensive, so.
Yeah. And a photo function. I don't know what that means. Are you taking photos with your phone or your car?
I think if the car has a rear-mounted camera, you can take a snapshot of whatever it was you just backed over.
That would be good.
You take a picture of the guy who's tailgating you. I see. This is the guy that ran into me or about to run into me.
You know when they're gonna? This, by the way, isn't available till next year, and it will work with the next generation of iPhone. I bet you this will be an interesting bet. Will it come on? Will it be? Will Steve Ballmer and Bill Gates drive it on the stage when Tim Cook announces it? Da 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 da. I would love to see that.
Well, you know, there are things. I mean, if they really started going down that path, I mean, so you'd have an iPhone app that would help you find your car in the parking lot, and it would start it up early. You know, you could be sitting in the theater going, start my car. You know, and so it's nice and warm. You know, if you're from the Northeast, you understand that's important. You know, but there's a lot of like interesting integration that hasn't happened. I actually think that the Ford Sync stuff is really pretty awesome. I rented a couple cars with it, and but when I think about where
it does that with any Bluetooth phone,
any Bluetooth phone. But I do think that there are ways. I mean, and the geek in me would love to see all the little things that are going on in the engine, which would be easily acquirable.
I kind of like this though. On the dashboard, there's a dock.
Yeah, with
I hope a Lightning connector. It'd be funny if it was a 30-pin port. Oops. You know, we designed this a while ago, and I believe it looks like it's kind of an odd-looking thing. I can't quite tell. It's sideways. So unless they redesign the iPhone, that's
not good product shot.
That's not going to work.
Yeah, I always see when the redesigned iPhone 4 first came out, one of the things I really liked about it was the fact that it's the first iPhone where it's not like a bubble back. It really is all flat planes. And I just imagined like a car adapter for the iPhone being kind of like a cassette deck, where you just simply push the iPhone in like the first inch, and then motorized rollers grab it, and it becomes like your CPU and your music library and your navigation system for a nice tidy screen in the middle of there. That is a nice example of the sort of things we were talking about a little bit earlier, where if Apple keeps branching out into services, if they kind of make the point that we have our own system for connecting to cars that makes integration into the iPhone better than any other phone you can possibly get, all the music services and mapping services we're providing just absolutely intimately connected to whatever car you happen to buy. I have a friend who has a Tesla S, and if he didn't spend enough time like screwing around on his phone before, now the fact is, I'm looking outside. I think I'd like the sunroof to be open 4 inches. Nope. How about 30 centimeters, I think, and then he can make all these adjustments. And it's not that that's an incredibly useful feature, but it's another example of how people are branch technologies are being accessible by your phone now. And so if the iPhone isn't the best there is at controlling your car and getting that sort of information while it's parked outside, that, hey, you know, there's a light that you really need to check right now before you move on, that could be an interesting way for another company to differentiate.
The interface, actually, and I do like the idea if it were really kind of integrated in. And this is what they're saying. It's similar to just snapping in a mobile navigation system. The problem now when you have a phone is it's hanging out of something, or it's, you know, it's kind of glued onto the dashboard with a suction cup or something. Look, this is what it says. The interface, located centrally on the dashboard of the Beetle, is the newly designed docking station in which the iPhone is integrated by simply snapping it in, similar to a mobile navigation system. You may not, maybe you don't even need Bluetooth. Maybe it just, and then the fun can begin. I'm reading from the press release. Essentially, all iPhone functions can be used in the Beetle. The iPhone can be used to navigate, telephone, naturally via a hands-free unit, listen to music from the media library via the audio system's amplifier and speakers, and much more. The Beetle app can connect the iPhone to the Beetle, docked or not undocked. That's what I just said. I don't know what that means. Docked or undocked. Oh, I guess you could be in the dock or in your pocket.
Right. Meaning if you're outside in a restaurant, you want to know, hey, do I need to make time to go get gas, that sort of stuff.
Spotify, the menus are Spotify expert, trainer, reader, postcard, photo, post, milestone. Spotify's music, obviously. You could switch between iTunes and Spotify. Under the expert menu, there are 5 functions, which basically makes the iPhone an extended onboard instrument of the Beetle, a G meter for measuring transverse acceleration. I love that.
Nice.
This is
for when you're beat your Beetle around the Nürburgring.
For Fast and Furious. Oil and coolant temperature gauges, a chronometer, and a compass. The trainer can be used to compare driving times, distances, and fuel economy values for different routes. Oh, so more than mapping. Yeah, that's kind of cool. And tips can be posted via social networks like Twitter and Facebook, such as which route leads to a quicker to your destination. The social reader lists the latest messages from social networks like Facebook. iPhone messages can be read aloud. Postcard. In response to a touchscreen command, the app sends the current location of the Beetle to friends as a digital postcard with a map motif, saying, sent with the Beetle app. Photo can be taken from the interior of the Beetle by the iPhone camera and sent to social networks. Oh, so it's taking a picture of you.
Yeah.
I'm driving.
And speaking of lawyers, we just got a new data set for lawyers to subpoena the next time you're in any kind of an accident.
Right.
I know that your car was struck by a meteor, but we're going to subpoena every scrap of data from that onboard system. If we find out that it took one picture unattended by you, we're going to invalidate your insurance.
This is kind of interesting. Would you buy a car based on that functionality? If you're a big iPhone fan, would it be nice it could snap my iPhone in?
I definitely have to say that I am definitely, whatever car I get next, I'm looking at getting some kind of company car, and whatever I get next is going to have definitely have very, very tight integration with my iPhone. That's the one problem. I have an older car right now.
Yeah.
It's a nice car, but it's really old because I couldn't afford a nice new car, and it is doesn't have any integration at all, and it's just very painful. And I've definitely decided that is one of the most important things for me.
And by the way, more than integration, you're going to have a badge on it that says iBeetle. Chrome badges on the front wing area of the A-pillars.
I'm not sure how excited I am about that. That's
Door
the part
mirror.
that I don't.
It's all over. It says iBeetle. iBeetle.
The U2 iPod.
Yeah.
It's the U2 iPod, only it's U2
cool.
iBeetle.
Yeah, I don't like all the messaging, but I do think that that's an important piece. I mean, that
I agree.
Being electric or hybrid or something like that. Are the
And
two things
presumably Volkswagen leverages this by saying, okay, you may not buy an iBeetle, but you're going to be able to have some of this functionality in all of our Beetles, right?
Yep.
I do think it's something that people are going to start expecting as they start to buy new cars, that their phone is going to work really, really great with it. We're seeing a lot of different car commercials that just part of the commercial is, hey, we're landing in the middle of a blizzard. The car in a parking lot is covered with snow, but don't worry, we've already turned on the heater, we've already turned on the engine, just because as soon as we got a 4G connection. So,
Afghanistan's unofficial Apple Store. From Cult of Mac. Wait a minute, that won't load though. Come on, internet. I know you can do it. It's a long way to Afghanistan. Come on. This page won't load. Do you have it? I don't know something's wrong with my computer. Never heard that before, huh?
There's a lot of unofficial Apple stores though around the world.
You're not getting there. It
Many
is
of them.
Apple Store Afghanistan. They even have a lit up Apple logo.
look at
They
that.
couldn't afford to light the stem. just the Apple. The metal detector's a nice touch. Is that a metal detector?
I don't think it's a metal detector.
Oh,
It's
okay, just the door.
It's aping the bezel of the of the iPhone.
Yeah. The Genius Bar is a little sparse, according to the Cult of Mac, and the flooring never, look at the flooring, never would have been approved by Steve Jobs. But if you find yourself in Kabul with a deep thirst for the latest Apple gadgetry, the unofficial Apple Store of Afghanistan, and there's the guy, there's the genius.
Well, so they got to feel pretty safe because all they have to do is, like, if they get a letter from Apple saying, that's fine, why don't you come over here and we'll discuss it?
According to the store, they sell about 5 or 6 iPhones a day to well-off Afghans. Most of the products are purchased through distributors in Dubai. The demand has been so great, the owners are even thinking about expanding to a second location. Business is booming, but still, Apple refuses to open an official Apple store in Kabul. China launched a pirate iOS store, and you don't even need a jailbreak to use it. I don't know how they're doing this. It looks, fairly serious. No jailbreak alternative to iTunes that not only pirates iOS apps, but helps sync them to your iPhone or iPad. And they have it on the web. I guess we could go there. You want to go there? I don't know. Makes me kind of nervous.
Have you ever used a credit card on that phone? Which maybe you shouldn't use it.
Look at it. Look at it. We are committed to provide you with unique, convenient, and pleasant iOS device management experiences with completely free of charge. English version coming soon. Okay. Simple to use without Apple ID. Easy to manage device with Windows Explorer. Plenty of free apps. If you want to pay, please go to the App Store. It says paid. Please go to the App Store. Wow. And so you download this. I don't think I'll put this on my computer.
Probably not. No.
Probably not a good idea. You get what you pay for, right?
Yeah, see, even it's bad enough when I'm on an actual, like, the Android Play Store, the Google Play Store, or the iOS Store, and I see an app that's very, very useful and very, very polished, so it's very, very well funded, but it's free. And I don't even see, like, here's where the paid add-ons are. It's like, I don't care if it's like it's gotten 1,000 like 5-star recommendations. This is the best SMS app ever made. Unless there's a way that I can actually give you money and prove, you need to prove to me that you're making money off of this that doesn't involve stealing my data, or, like, that's no good. But yeah, even there, but that's even there is, at least it's not pirated software. So. It's you got to remember that almost every time that someone gets a virus on a Mac or an iOS device, or really almost any other kind of device, it's because they were trying to get pirated software.
I agree.
Or even pirated video files.
Dumb thing to do. ITC is tossing out Motorola's complaint against Apple. A German court on Friday denied Google's Motorola an injunction against Microsoft over a push notification patent that's invalid. Then the U.S. ITC on yesterday, threw out the last patent suit remaining in the investigation of Motorola's complaint against Apple. The sensor-controlled user interface for portable communication device, that patent was found invalid. So Google can't appeal to federal appeals court. No indication of whether they're going to or not. But it looks like Apple's pretty much won everywhere, hands down, in the patent battles. All right. I think that's. I don't think there's anything I've missed here. There's a new Mac Pro coming out. No.
Although I will say that I've talked to 2 different people who've given me information that make me think that we're going to see something really cool this year. Nothing more specific than that, unfortunately. But now I've sort of, like, raised that from, okay, it makes sense, and I suppose there's some rumblings to that too. Okay, there are a couple people whose word that I tend to have a lot of faith in who have said, okay, that's interesting.
Rich Siegel, you're a developer, you're a pro user. Do you use Mac Pros?
I do.
Are you anxious to see a new one?
I have 3 within 15 feet of me. One down here, which is my daily use workstation, and an old one which is out of service, and one across the room which is a file server.
Would you consider buying an iMac instead?
Well, I could certainly. The iMacs are great machines. They're very fast, and I'm sure that I could spend enough money and plug enough storage into them to do the job. But one thing I have that I just cannot give up is my 30-inch cinema display.
Oh, I know. I know.
And I like the notion of having my central processing, the machine itself, separated from the display. It makes it easy to upgrade one or the other, or makes it easy to replace one or the other.
Have you done any upgrades to the? I put a new video card in. I put SSD in. Have you done anything like that to your old?
In the Mac Pro, yes.
Yeah.
I've upgraded drives. I have an interesting little device which is a PCI card that accepts an SSD and gives you pretty much best possible throughput to the drive.
I bought a PCI Express card SSD from Otherworld Computing that was amazing. Yeah.
Sorry?
I bought a PCI Express SSD from Otherworld Computing. Same idea.
Yeah, I have
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yep.
The speed.
I have one of those, and actually that's my boot drive.
Yeah.
I've added internal storage, which you can't do to an iMac.
Right.
I've had drives fail and replaced them, which is
hard to do on an iMac.
Harder to do in an iMac.
Yeah.
So I look forward to seeing the next generation of high-end hardware from Apple. They have always had a performance leader. They've always had sort of a state machine which demonstrates what's possible with today's tech. The great thing about it is that it's got a really long service life too. I have a 2006 machine, and I have a 2008 that I got used, and I have a 2010 machine, and they're great.
So what could let's assume Andy's sources are accurate. I'm sure they are. Something really exciting. It doesn't sound like an actual cheese grater Mac Pro, though. It sounds like something. What, in your wildest dreams, what would it be? A modular Mac Pro?
I don't know if it would be a cheese grater machine or a modular machine. Apple has clearly gotten out of the modular hardware business. They want consumers, they want customers to buy the machine and put it into service.
Right.
And I think that anything that introduces friction into that process is something they want to avoid. But I can see a hypothetical Pro machine being state of the art in terms of the internal connections that it supports. 20 gigabit Thunderbolt out the back.
That's something we definitely need.
Lots of memory slots. Hard to tell with PCI what they're going to do with that, but there's a new PCI Express. There's new SATA standards, and much has been made of just how far behind the Mac Pros have fallen in terms of their internal connectivity. So, I think stuff like that, the latest generation of Intel server processors, clearly.
I wonder if remember they were talking about, in fact, Tim Cook said we're going to make Macs in the U.S. this year. Is that the Mac Pro, or is that just an iMac or something else? Mac Mini?
I don't know. It would
going
almost
to be manufacturing iMacs in the U.S. That was my recollection.
Was it iMacs? Oh, okay. I don't think they're going to do a cheese grater. I just don't see that.
No, they would go back to the old design. No.
I like what you said, though, Rich. Apple needs one product that says this is the top of the line, state of the art.
I mean, I could definitely see a 2U, something that would fit basically in a 2U that isn't set up for rack mounting, but you could put rack mounts on it. Like you could
put
ears on it, slide them on, and stick them in. So it was really built for that, rather than what we do now, which is cut off the parts of the cheese grater and put stuff on to rack it in. And so something that was, but it was, if it looked really cool, and then you could set it up if you wanted to, and maybe set it upward or sideways, and possibly put some ears on it and shove it into a rack. Two slots, and I think that, and then a bunch of Thunderbolt, 5 Thunderbolt connections or 4 Thunderbolt connections. That's pretty much it. I think that's what would be something that would be, I think, compelling. Outside of that, I think they just keep on making iMacs.
Yeah, Thunderbolt connections are expensive, and there's a technical issue there with Thunderbolt, which I think might have created some headaches, and that is Thunderbolt carries video from the video card.
Right.
And so even though it is PCI on a wire, it is also video from the video card on the wire, and you cannot just put a PCI card into a Mac Pro and you've got Thunderbolt. It doesn't work.
Oh, no. I think that the PCI cards are separate from Thunder. I think the Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt needs to be built into the motherboard
to go there, and so I think that creates a little bit of an issue because right now, the computers we've seen that do Thunderbolt have it on the motherboard, bringing video out of either integrated or discrete video, which is on the motherboard. I think Asus or somebody has done sort of a little back channel which lets you connect a video card back to the motherboard and it pipes video out the Thunderbolt port.
Well, and for me, the need for the PCI slots are not necessarily graphics cards or anything else. It's ingest cards, control cards that we need. Like right now I have this box that sits outside my laptop and to get, high-end video in. And so that's the kind of stuff that we would be interested in, is being able to connect those and have them all inside the box rather than living outside the box, which is what they're doing now. You can get cards now for them, but that's the issue with like iMacs and so on and so forth.
Right, and if you're a gamer, you're going to want to add high-end video to this thing eventually.
Well, the question though, so we want to add high-end video, but the question with a gamer is, do you need the actual video out from the card, or you just need to accelerate? So it could theoretically, you could have it so that it's going out there, but it's processing the triangles. Specifically, faster. You can add that ability, but still have it coming out of the Thunderbolt.
Also, it's
not currently done, but it certainly could be done.
Yeah.
Also, what's a gamer doing buying a Mac?
Hey, when you boot Windows on it, it's great. All right. Just thought I'd try to get some Mac news in there. I've done my job now. We're going to take a break, come back with our picks of the week. Rich, you got something you want to talk about? I'm sure you do. Rich Siegel from Bare Bones Software. Oh, yeah, I see you do. I like it. Oh, dear. You're going to make me fat, Rich. You already have, actually. It's too late.
I disclaim all responsibility.
More good foodstuffs from Rich Siegel. But, and, of course, Alex Lindsay and Andy Nako with their picks. But before we do that, let's talk about Shutterstock. More and more I'm seeing, if I'm on a blog that has great images or a website, I'm seeing at the bottom images from Shutterstock. They don't have to do that, but I think Shutterstock is such a great service. A lot of people want to tell the world about it. They have literally millions of images, 20 million high-quality stock photos, illustrations, vectors, video clips for you, for your publications, for your menus, for your website, whatever it is you need royalty-free images for or video for, this is the place to get it. They do two things which I really like. They have a subscription pack. That's what I have, 25 images a day. That's great for somebody who's publishing content all the time. You could download any image in any size, pay one price. It's yours to use in whatever you need. And the search tools on here are fantastic. You can go to Shutterstock right now. You don't even need to make an account to play with their sophisticated search tools. Although if you make a free account, you get even more capabilities. Okay, pick an emotion. Sad. Pick an animal. Monkey.
Panda. Okay.
Too late. Already said sad monkey. Do you think there's possibly in their 20 million images any images of sad monkeys anywhere buried within there? I don't know. Let's do a search. My computer, this is not Shutterstock. My computer is just, there's something real. Wait a minute. 1,407 sad monkeys? Apparently there are a lot of sad monkeys in the world. So as the sad. That's a sad. Oh, now I'm sad I did that. Let's do happy monkey. I feel bad, these poor sad monkeys. So you get the idea. You can even go further here. You see on the left, you could choose image type, photo, illustration, vector. You could choose the orientation, portrait or landscape mood. You can choose a category. You can exclude keywords. You could choose by contributor name. Here's some happy monkeys. Lots of happy monkeys. Oh, here's a happy chimpanzee. You can. I think every blog post should have a happy chimpanzee in it. You can do it by category. And I love this. They've got a color wheel. So you can do, now, so you have to be, I guess you have to log in to get the color wheel, but you could choose by a color. They also have a great Lightbox tool, which lets you save images. Let me log into my account. Lets you save images to a Lightbox and then share them anytime with other team members. You can say, here's what we're thinking. Can you take it off my screen minutes for a moment just while I log in? Are you doing a search for something besides sad monkeys?
Yeah, I'm searching for pandas, but with a specific blue color. It looks
blue
like
pandas? There are none.
Yeah.
Don't you know that?
Sorry. Didn't
you study pandas in school? But that's the color. There's the color wheel. Oh, right. See, there's something. It's all the blue images.
All of the
blue lady.
Images. My perfect blue.
Blue city, blue sky. Blue skies above me. Shutterstock.com. If you're looking for stock images royalty-free, this is the place to go. I want you to visit them right now. No credit card needed. Just start an account. Begin using Shutterstock. Use that Lightbox to save assets. Once you decide you want to buy, use our offer code MacBreak and the number 4. Any new account will get 30% off any package. 30% for new accounts, but you got to use MacBreak 4. That's a great deal. You see, I have some Mother's Day's coming up, and my mom is in town. So I have some, in my account here, I have some mom images in my Lightbox. Oh, I can make a little Mother's Day card. Oh, isn't that sweet? Shutterstock.com. MacBreak 4 is the offer code to save money. We thank them so much for their support of all of our Twitch shows. Now, let's get some picks of the week. Since we talked food and it's lunchtime, let me let Rich Siegel go first. Rich?
Well, first, let me get this out of the way. And it was the name that sold it. This is the iSchmutz.
It's an air filter for your Mac Pro?
It is an air filter for the Mac Pro by the fine folks at Trans International.
Oh, I love them. I used to buy my memory from them exclusively.
And I haven't installed this one yet. It's got a little adhesive backing, and the picture on the front sort of tells the story. It sticks to the front of the machine, and it's a foam filter which catches all the stuff that would normally get sucked into the machine.
I could tell you when I opened my Mac Pro, 2.5-year-old Mac Pro, to put in the drive and the video card, it was disgusting. So much dust in there. It gets sucked right in.
You have pets at home? You have cats or dogs?
No, and that's well, I have a dog, but it's mostly just dust. That was the funny thing. I mean, just that's what happens over time because air is being drawn through the case. I think this is a very good idea.
So I'm looking forward to trying it out. It's open cell, so it doesn't really impede the airflow. And when it fills up, theoretically, you just vacuum it out, and we'll see how it goes. My office is very dusty, so I'm real interested.
I did break out the Dyson suck stick. What do they call it?
The vacuum?
That's a good brand.
That's not the name. It's a little battery portable, and I put on the little nozzle, and I got all that stuff out. It's probably a good idea to do that on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. The Dyson, there it is. There's the Schmutz. What is the Schmutz Master? Fits all Mac Pros because really it's just a piece of foam. The iSchmutz air filter.
And my other pick, because there has to be something food related for Leo, is these cookies.
I hate you. Nekot, N-E-K-O-T.
If you grew up in the South, you might know this name. But I learned recently that they are, the brand is now owned by Snyder's of Hanover, the pretzel people.
Oh, yeah, I like them.
And I like their products as well. And it's great because this stuff is going nationwide. These cookies are really nice because they're not very sweet. They're not over-sweetened. There's just there's enough to remind you that you're not eating a cracker. And the peanut butter really just works with it.
The Nekot with real peanut butter. We're not talking fake peanut butter in here.
That's the other thing that I like about these folks is, I try to read the ingredients and I look at what they're using, and
it's pretty simple.
Snyder's is making something about how they're avoiding high fructose corn syrup and artificial ingredients and all sorts of other strangeness.
Well, there is corn syrup in it, but maybe it's low fructose corn syrup.
Yeah, maybe normal syrup like Karo.
Is there a difference between Karo syrup and high fructose corn syrup? Are there two different things?
Undivided attention at the moment. So,
Rich Siegel, thank you so much for being here. Alex Lindsay, your pick of the week from beautiful Cancun. And if it has something to do with white sand beaches and tropical temperatures, I'm there.
It does. It does.
Oh, man.
Well, kind of. Well, it's the technology. So one of the things I plan to be using right after the show in the water.
Oh, I hate you. I hate you.
Is this. So this is the GoPro Hero.
Yeah.
And
with the waterproof case.
I love this camera.
Now, do you have the Hero 3 yet?
Yeah, this is the Hero 3.
The Hero 3 Black, top of the line.
Yeah, you know me.
So I have one. So tell me, what can I do with it? Because I have not used it.
Okay, I know I bought it, and I have to admit, I shouldn't say this, but I have a Hero 2 that I actually still like. It's been floating around my house. I was like, this is a great idea.
Worse
and then I never
than
did
that,
anything with it.
I have a Hero 3 Silver.
Yes,
that's our camera that we use for the Thrill Cam.
Right.
All it's being used for is ziplining across the studio.
So
there it is.
So what? There it is. So the
black is 4K, right?
Yes. So this is 4K, and so one of the things that I'll post soon, but I don't want to. Anyway, I'm still learning how to do it, but I actually built an attachment, or I took one of the sticker attachments, I put it on the windshield of my car, and I've become kind of obsessed with taking, little car time lapses. So you drive around,
that's
and
fun.
You get all of that stuff, and I'm gonna take it into the water today. I'm gonna see how it works.
That's what I got it for. I really want to dive with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have some fun with it, and but the idea, and then I've got one of the things I'm going to be playing with soon is they have like a little head strap that you can put on it, and it tilts down. And I think I can do really good training with it, so I can kind of grab on and talk about things. So it's just kind of like
you can see how wide angle. It's very wide angle. Now you can set it for different cropping.
You can set it for a medium as well, which so the idea is that I could do training or talk about products with it kind of sitting, kind of leaning over like this, where I can talk and have it there. And because it's so wide angle, you don't really notice all the camera moving around as long as you don't you don't go crazy with it.
Oh, that's why. Of course, that makes sense.
Right, yeah, because there's so much there, so that's why it feels so interestingly stable. So anyway, but the cool thing, of course, is to bring it back to MacBreak, is that it integrates incredibly well with your iPhone.
That's what you're seeing, by the way, here when we show it, it's on an iPad. That's now you see there's a little latency, a little lag, maybe a few seconds.
Yeah, there's a couple seconds, but the cool thing is that when you're putting this in odd places and trying to figure out whether it's working when it's up here like this and everything else, well, it's kind of hard because it's up here, and then how are you going to know whether it's pointing the right way? And the iPhone, the iPhone lets you change the settings. It lets you see what's going on. It's just a really great solution. Yeah. And the Hero 3 has it all built in. With the Hero 2 or Hero 2, you needed a back to do the Wi-Fi control. It's built into the Hero 3, and it shoots 4K, and it's really cool. So anyway, it took me a long time. The only reason I bring it up, it took me a long time to. I was excited about GoPros, but it took me a long time to figure out what I was going to do with them. And now that I'm starting to do stuff with them, I can't stop. So anyway,
I actually have a bumper mount for my first gen GoPro, which screws into the tow hook fitting on my car, and it's great because it's rigid; it won't fall off, and you get some awesome video.
How much is that? Top of the line Hero 3 Black.
$399.
And that includes, by the way, the mount.
Yes, it comes with one of the mounts, but then of course what happens is you start, buying
you gotta buy more
mounts, and one of the things the suction cup, you can get one that just does a quarter or 20, like you would have for a tripod. And then at that point, you're able to just kind of attach it to all kinds of things. And one of the things I'm going to be doing when I go back to Africa in the next couple months is shoot. So I get some forward cams going through towns, but I'm also going to stick one to the side so you can get people going by and all kinds of other fun stuff. So anyway, it's nifty.
And this one has Wi-Fi built in, which is really nice. So you don't need to add the Wi-Fi on the back.
There's not another thing you have to deal with.
15 frame per second 4K. I've not tried that. I can't imagine it's very good quality, but
it is. It's remarkably good quality.
Really?
So
wow.
Yeah. So it's not. I mean, it's not the same as an SLR, but it's still. I was actually pretty surprised at the quality that I was looking at.
GoPro. They've got a silver. They've got white for $200. The white edition on the Hero 3, and that would be a good choice. By the way, it's 12 megapixels. And you can do super slow-mo, too, which is kind of fun.
Which I haven't tried yet.
Yeah, that's kind of fun. Not super slow-mo, regular slow-mo.
It's like 60 frames a second.
And
but
time
still,
lapse.
It's cool.
Yeah, and time lapse is cool, too. I've used the time lapse. That's fun.
I'm telling you, attach it to your car and drive around, and then you get obsessed with it because you're like driving through Petaluma with time lapse is it's cool. All the little cars go. Whoop, 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 whoop,
I know. All right, and now, ladies and gentlemen, we had cookies. It's time for Scrapple. Here's Andy and Notco.
Not Scrapple, but Scapple.
Oh.
I've been making that mistake all morning, too. This is a really nice, like, sort of like mind map app that just got released this morning by Literature and Latte. They're the folks that also make Scrivener. And it's a very, very simple app. It's for, I've got a document open here. It's for doing, like, diagrams like this. It's not for, like, outlines where you have a rigid sense of control and hierarchy. It's where you are slapping down ideas and then forming connections between those ideas, either to create a diagram you're going to show to other people or just to organize a really sprawling concept or a sprawling project inside your head. It's very, very simple. I mean, it's just really, you can put any kind of data on there you want, pictures, text. Adding something new is just as simple as just click where you want to go, hit enter. Oops. There you go. And just type here, since we're talking about the Big Bang, we'll talk about Glenn Miller. There you go. And we want to connect, and he was part of Niels Bohr's band, I think, so we just dragged from there to there. And now we've got a line connecting.
Neil was on the drums. He's a really amazing fella, but the problem was he thought drumming was kind of relative.
You see him like sweating through an undershirt, a tuxedo shirt, and a tuxedo jacket.
Yeah.
That's why he was the madman of Madison, Wisconsin. That's what they called him. And so really the purpose of this app really is, again, so there are times where you just have ideas and things you just need to get them down and then find the organizations or the connections later. This is a great thing for when having like sort of an open meeting when people are just kicking out ideas and you need to sort of have a very, very fluid idea of what all this data is like, it does integrate into Scrivener, so that you can drag things into and out of a Scrivener project. It's not as tightly integrated as I would like it to be, but it does. It is a nice. You can see that it was a tool created by the same sort of people who thought that Scrivener would be a really good tool. One other thing that bears mentioning, the famous app for Mac that does this sort of thing is, of course, OmniGraffle from Omni Group, and that is like the killer app for if you're trying to figure out, okay, so today we're going to figure out how we're going to replace the space shuttle. All we know going into this conference room is that it should start on the ground and go up generally, and it's going to cost a lot of money. Let's start spitballing ideas. That OmniGraffle is the sort of thing for that kind of really major project, or for creating really beautiful, polished charts and graphics that you're going to be using someplace else. This isn't this sort of an app, but the difference is that the cheap version of OmniGraffle goes for $99, and Scapple goes for $15. So
it's not mind mapping; it's just drawing lines. But for a lot of people, that's all you need.
Well, I mean, mind mapping for whoever, this is, I'm sure there are people who will sell you like a $100 course for 3 hours on mind mapping. So this is really all about, I know I've got this project, whether it's I want to add a deck to the house. Here are all the elements I'm going to have to coordinate to get this going. 2, I'm going to be writing a story soon, and I want to make sure that there's a structure to the outline before I even really figure out what who these characters are or what they're doing. That's not the sort of thing for which you would gamble $100 to hope that this will help you organize things. Gamble $15, sure. And on top of everything else, you get a 30-day free trial, just as you do with Scrivener. So you get the full version of the app for 30 days. You can save, you can open, you can print, you can export, do all that kind of cool stuff. And really, that's almost enough time to figure out how to add a deck to your porch, add a deck to your house, and but still send them the $15. They're good people, and that's $15 is going to go towards creating the iPad version of Scrivener. And every dollar we can give them towards finishing that iPad app is another day towards nirvana for people like me.
Yes, indeedy. Hey, I don't have a product that's out yet, but they announced it today, and I'm very intrigued. If you've ever seen the Microsoft Surface tablets, where they have a magnetic, like the Apple Smart cover, but it has a keyboard built into it, a flat keyboard. Logitech has just announced the same technology for the iPad. They call it the Fabric Skin Keyboard Folio. I pre-ordered it. I won't have it for a while. Just announced, $150, a little pricey. But I like the idea of a keyboard cover that doesn't take up a lot of space, like the keyboard that I like, which is the Logitech, and we've talked about many. Yeah, that one, right, the Ultra Thin. I think you talked about it last week, actually, Andy.
Yeah, that was a pick fairly recent.
Yeah. So I have mine too, and it's a great stand and so forth. This is a full case, so it goes all the way around the back, unlike the Surface keyboard, and also has a kind of membrane style flat keyboard built into it. This wouldn't be good for extensive typing, but it's a lot more compact than a real keyboard. You do have to charge it up. I think this is going to be intriguing. We'll see. We'll get one.
Extensive typing on an iPad. I mean,
yeah, you shouldn't
think
be,
about
right?
it. I think about it, and I got a Zag, and I got a Logitech, and I got these other things that I thought I was going to do all this typing, but I never actually.
So
did.
I just think this would be great. So we'll maybe it's hard to tell until you try something, but I like the idea of it being very, very thin, so it really just feels like a cover. And for the typing that you need to do, you got it. It's right there. It's brand new from Logitech. They just announced it today. The Logitech Fabric Skin keyboard folio.
They've been releasing a lot of great stuff recently.
They have, haven't they? I like Logitech. I've always liked Logitech. They started. They're a Swiss company that started making mice for I think it was Logo computers. It was in the earliest days of mice, well before Windows or Apple. We're using
and let me maybe ruin all the good PR we're about to give them, but wasn't that like a 1997 era USB like Logitech Orb trackball that I saw on remember there's a picture of Kim Jong-un with a really, really antiquated like missile launch system, and I could swear that I saw a Logitech I think it was called the Orb. It was, and so that is what I look at when I was like, gee, madman who might have access to nuclear missiles. I'm thinking, ooh, that's like a 1997. Yeah. It's
easy to miss.
It wasn't a full trackball, but it was a trackpad.
Yeah, it wasn't super accurate.
Ooh, is that ADB? Oh my God, Kim Jong-un is an Apple guy. He's running OS 8 probably.
Isn't that exciting? Logitech was founded in 1981, and they introduced their first mouse in 1982, 2 years before the Macintosh came out, and several years before Microsoft Windows used a mouse. I think it was Word that was the first product to use a mouse, and it was I think it was Nicholas Wirt who was involved in it, as I remember, for his Turbo, the P system used a mouse, I think, something like that. Anyway, so it's a company with a great history. They shipped, in 2003, they shipped their 500 millionth mouse. 10 years later, it's got to be 1 billion.
They also announced this week that their G series of, they've had these gaming peripherals that they will make them work with all Mac
computers. Yeah. Mac gaming is getting better. Now that there's Steam, I know BioShock Infinite's going to come out in a couple of months. Blizzard, of course, always does simultaneous releases. I think Mac gaming ain't so bad. We talked about that a little earlier during the show. I don't mind gaming on a Mac. Hey, thank you so much for being here. Rich Siegel, barebones.com, Barebones Software, creators of the great BB Edit, Text Wrangler, the free version of that, Yojimbo, the great file system. Anything else?
I think that pretty much
covers it. Covers it all. One must have it, but you can start with Text Wrangle, see what you like. My favorite thing, it still is the MPW style terminal sheet in BB Edit. That I just love that. I miss MPW so much. The Mac Programmer's Workshop, and you kept it alive with BB Edit and his bird. Thank you, Rich. Great to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
Go dive in warm body temperature water, clear as the ocean sky. Fish swimming around you, little.
I get it. I get an
fish.
afternoon. So you finish work. I get an afternoon tomorrow. I'm lugging 2 tons of gear back to New York.
This is it.
So it's I just get Carlita and I get the evening, like literally it's been like white knuckle for the last 3 days, and now I'm gonna go out in the beach for 4 hours, and then I'm getting ready to go to New York.
So the job was a success. Everything went well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we survived.
Okay. You survived. That's all I want to know. Okay. There is a confidential nature to Mr. Lindsay's work. We're not being coy. It's a there's a certain confidentiality. His clients are sensitive In the way that James Bond might be sensitive about his cover story. It's that kind of thing.
Exactly.
You just got to understand that and move on.
As we built this whole thing around Cancun when I'm actually in Australia.
You fooled me! Why, that room could be anywhere.
Exactly.
In fact, he could be down the hall for all we know.
It's actually green screen. The whole thing is.
The whole thing
is
can be green
I'm
screen.
right around the corner. I just like to keep up the appearance, you know.
Mr. Andy Anako is at the Chicago Sun-Times. That's where you can read his fabulous reviews. And, of course, he joins us every week. His Anako's Almanac is heard by many, all and sundry at 5by5.tv. And anything else you want to plug, Mr. Anako Island, coming soon.
Exactly. Yeah,
to a
keep
bay near
away
you.
for it. You might want to keep it a good wide berth until at least August. We got a little a twitchy voltage regulator that we're still trying to lock down, but it's fine. It really is fine. There's no need to come out.
The natives say that every night strange sounds emerge from Inatko Island. Drumming and screams.
Sounds like early 80s ska, might be Madness, could be the Specials, but they think it's a little bit later than that. It's definitely not No Doubt, so it's not late 90s.
Thank you. Thank you all. We do this show 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC on twit.tv every Tuesday. Please stop by. We tried. I stalled as long as we can, but we're still another 45 minutes from Apple's earning call. So we'll just have to talk about that next week. If you can't watch live, do watch the on-demand versions after the fact. Audio and video available at twit.tv/MBW for MacBreak Weekly or wherever finer podcasts are aggregated, stored, and delivered without muss or fuss to your home operating system. I'm Leo Laporte. Thanks for joining us. Now get back to work because break time is over. Or the beach. You can go to the beach. Yeah.